Ahoy there, speculative pirates, Pastafarians, and ye seekers of sacred carbohydrates. Welcome aboard. I be Captain Dread Pirate Higgs, humble host for the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster of British Columbia, and licensed purveyor of spiritual marinara. If you be new here, this be a Pastafarian sermon served up weekly, devoted to the praise and glory of our Lowly Lord, wherein we explore life, spirituality, philosophy, and other matters of importance, such as whether or not pineapple belongs on pizza. And for the record, no toppings are forbidden by the monster. So don your colanders and tricorns with pride. Fill your goblets with grog. Arm yourselves with the instruments of consumption, and let the spiritual feasting begin. Ahoy, me mateys and fellow Pastafarians, and Jolly Friday. Today be Biological Diversity Day, a holiday which, if we are being honest, sounds less like a spiritual observance and more like a mandatory seminar hosted by a very enthusiastic science teacher named Karen. But beneath the awkward title lies something strangely sacred: biological diversity, the unimaginable variety of life, the sheer absurdity of existence deciding that instead of making one successful creature design and calling it a day, they would instead create octopuses, giraffes, mushrooms, capybaras, electric eels, and that one fish that looks permanently disappointed in you. The blobfish, for the record. And humans, of course. The species that invented philosophy, nuclear weapons, scented candles, and Substack newsletters. Truly, the menu of creation contains many a strange noodle. Now, the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster has long held a deep theological appreciation for variety, to the point of absurdity. After all, what kind of deity creates penguins and platypuses unless the noodly one possessed either a profound sense of creativity or was cooking while intoxicated? Honestly, I find both explanations equally plausible. Because nature does not seem obsessed with perfection. Nature seems obsessed with possibility. A forest is not efficient. An ecosystem is not tidy. The sea floor is not organized according to a global corporate spreadsheet. Life sprawls. Life mutates. Life improvises. It throws colors together. It invents bizarre mating dances. It creates frogs that look radioactive and birds that steal shiny objects for no apparent reason. The universe appears less like an engineered machine and more like a jazz session held together with seaweed and hope. And somewhere along the way, in spite of ourselves, we become convinced that university was safer than diversity. Not just biologically, socially, spiritually, politically. We build systems that reward conformity because unpredictability frightens us. We sort people into categories. We flatten personalities into labels. We command tribes. Algorithms feed us copies of ourselves until we forget how to speak to anyone outside our own ideological aquariums, our cognitive bubbles, our philosophical caves. Even individuality is a production line item now. People wear rebellion as clothing brands. Counterculture arrives prepackaged with loyalty points and free shipping, and everything beneath it all is this ancient fear. If everyone becomes too different, perhaps the whole thing falls apart. But biological diversity teaches the opposite lesson. Monocultures are fragile. One disease can wipe out an entire crop if everything is genetically identical. One environmental shift can collapse an ecosystem that lacks variation. Diversity is not weakness. Diversity is resilience. Life survives precisely because it experiments. Precisely because it refuses to become one thing. And I think humans forget this because we confuse comfort with health. We want certainty, predictability, clear answers, a clean little box labeled good people over here, bad people over there, normal, weird, us, them. But the flying spaghetti monster, in his infinite and noodly ambiguity, appears deeply uninterested in these categories, because existence itself keeps violating them. The deeper science looks, the stranger reality becomes. Trees communicate through pheromones. Fungi connect through vast networks underground. Octopuses solve puzzles like underwater chess players. And humans? Why, humans host a multitude of identities. Every person you pass at the grocery store is carrying invisible ecosystems of memory, fear, longing, private grief, half-healed wounds, and absurd little coping rituals. One man crying in his parked car before going to work. One exhausted mother pretending she's okay because the children are watching. One teenager terrified that who they really are will make them unlovable, practicing a name in the mirror that doesn't yet feel safe to say aloud. One lonely old fella eating canned soup in silence while the television talks to itself in the background. And all of them trying, all of us trying, in our own strange but similar ways, to survive the storm of unrelenting existence. Biological Diversity Day is not just about whales and rainforests, though the whales could probably appreciate our support. It is also about remembering that life itself flourishes through difference. Not despite it, through it. And perhaps this is where Pastafarianism has, somewhat ungracefully, accidentally stumbled into genuine wisdom and divine inspiration while wearing a pirate hat and holding garlic bread. Because ours is a faith suspicious of purity. History whispers a warning. Purity movements always become dangerous eventually. Pure ideology, pure morality, pure nationalism, pure religion, pure certainty. History has shown us repeatedly that when humans become obsessed with eliminating difference, they eventually begin eliminating people. The monster does not ask humanity to mold its noodles into a single shape. The monster appears to delight in the tangled chaos, in the strange shapes, in the imperfect, saucy distribution of existence. And thank the heavens for that, because many of us grew up feeling like biological errors. Too weird, too emotional, too awkward, too skeptical, too artistic, too sensitive, too loud, too quiet, too much, or never enough. Modern life has unnumbered ways of making people feel defective, especially now. Social media turns humanity into a non-stop talent show judged by exhausted and unwelcome strangers. Everybody branding themselves, optimizing themselves, curating themselves. Meanwhile, the pirate within languishes quietly in the corner like a stowaway, living on hardtack. And perhaps one of the great hidden tragedies of adulthood is how many people spend their lives trying to become less strange, less visible, less themselves. Just enough to camouflage to survive the workday. Just enough emotional editing to avoid rejection. Just enough self-erasure to remain employable. But ecosystems do not thrive because every creature becomes interchangeable. The forest needs diversity. The ocean needs diversity. Communities need diversity. And so, too, does the spirit of a Pastafarian pirate. Not merely tolerated diversity, not corporate poster diversity, not diversity as branding, real diversity, messy diversity. The kind where people genuinely think differently, live differently, express themselves differently, and occasionally make each other uncomfortable. Because discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes discomfort is simply the sensation of reality expanding beyond our previous understanding. And that expansion can be sacred, or at least sacred adjacent, and that's close enough for pirates. Now, this does not mean every idea is equally wise. Even Pastafarians must admit that some noodles should not be put in certain soups. But it does mean that difference itself is not a flaw in creation. It may, in fact, be the entire point. A song with only one note is not music. A world with only one kind of mind becomes vacant. And a society incapable of tolerating oddness eventually loses its own imagination. So, on this Biological Diversity Day, the Noodly One invites us to reflect. Protect what is rare. Protect what is vulnerable. Protect what is strange. Not only in nature, but also in each other. And perhaps even within ourselves. Because the weird little parts of you that do not fit neatly into the machine may be the parts that are most alive. The universe did not become magnificent by repeating itself endlessly. It became magnificent by experimenting wildly, by growing coral reefs and thunderstorms, and awkward human beings capable of both terrible cruelty and astonishing tenderness, by allowing contradiction, by allowing variation, by allowing noodles of every imaginable shape. So may we resist the temptation to become sterile copies of one another. May we leave room for eccentricity, for compassion, for mutation of thought, for curiosity, for unlikely friendships, for difficult conversations, for strange art, for weird people, for biodiversity of both nature and spirit. And may we remember that the flying spaghetti monster never asked us to become perfect, just al dente. Ramen. If you've enjoyed today's sermon, or it has at least given you a hankering for pasta, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with a friend who could use a little more carbohydrate-based philosophical perspective and saucy theological inspiration. New sermons arrive every Friday, quab willing, because our monster appreciates a degree of regularity and plenty of leftovers. Until next time, may you be touched by his noodly appendages, sated by his zesty sauce, and cradled in his comfy colander. Fair winds, following seas, and as ever, ramen. Aye, aye, and goodbye.